Welcome to the Ultimate Bloons TD6 strategy series, where I'm going to be showing you strategies for every single tower from the Dart Monkey to the Beast Handler and every single path in between. This will show you how to diversify your setup and get better, along with seeing some stats, tips and tricks, and all of the strategies for every single one of the towers. And although that the series is geared more towards Chimps mode, this will also show you a lot of tips and tricks that apply to the standard game and will allow you to win with a new style. Anyways, it's time for the last primary, which is the glue bottom path. This is the super glue, relentless glue, and Moab glue, all amazing towers. So we're gonna have to get into every single one of these guys. So they all do pretty much the same thing. The Moab glue is Moab support. The relentless glue is Moab support, but more. It's relentless this time. And then the super glue, instead of just being relentless, it's, I guess I classified it as heavy Moab support. It's super Moab support. Guess that's how it kind of works. Now let's take a look at these stats. So they do the same job, really simple. They slow down Moabs, and they are very good at it. This is one of the most common paths of towers that you'll see in Chimps mode. You'll see these guys in pretty much every single game. Like most all games will involve either a Moab or relentless glue. You won't see super glue as much just because it's more expensive, but for its price it is extremely strong too. So they have a lot of great slows. The super glue really in particular will slow a lot and like hold them there, and that's not like slow down, like it will hold Moabs in place and DDTs in place too, which is quite crazy. So for the cross paths, you're always going to want to get the middle. So you can do 023, 024, 025. That's pretty much the most optimal thing. Sometimes if you don't need splatter and you want to just slow down the BFBs and the ZUMGs, you can go 013 on your glue instead. Saves a little bit of money. And you could also do 013 glue with primary training, or you can push everything forward and just get a primary training on an 023. Now we'll have a primary training, I guess, buff, because this will give it pierce. Pretty good. Pierce is very good on this. This is kind of the buff that you want, which is a pierce buff, because it will be allowing you to slow down more balloons. So you can also do that, or we can just get 023 and affect even more. So that's very useful for like big rounds like 98 if you want to slow down the Moabs too. Now you can get relentless glue. You're always going to want splatter on this. It would be very bizarre, not really worth the money to get a 014 glue. So just get 024, keep the primary training on that, and super glue. Definitely want splatter too, and you definitely want primary training. Now you can enhance the super glue a little bit by getting an alec buff. This isn't really necessary. It does increase the pierce and attack speed, allowing you to do more. The damage isn't that big of a deal, but that's an option that you have if you have some extra money and you want some more power in your support. So that's really what buffs you would give. And when it comes to the glue stacking, if you saw the Bloon solver episode, you might know that these guys do have a strange interaction. They can be stacked on top of each other, but only if the Bloon solver hits it first. And as I said in the the Bloon solver episode, this might seem like a really weird combination, because if you're going to be using Bloon solver with this, then it looks like it won't do damage. This is unlike the Moab glue with the super glue, where it can just affect everything. So you can use glue storm with Moab glue. That's what I meant to say. But with the Bloon solver and the Moab glue, it's just really strange, and it works sometimes and it doesn't. This example kind of shows it. I showed the same example in the Bloon solver episode, but when the relentless glue hits it first, the Bloon solver will not be able to touch it. But this doesn't really look as bad as it is when you're in a practical game, for the reason that typically you would have a tower that's like kind of opening up the big heavy balloons, and then when it comes to like all the Moabs and ceramics, then the Bloon solver would be taking the job of cleaning it up. So it isn't that bad in a practical game. Like I did a Pat's Pond Black Border using both of these guys. Everything worked super smoothly for me, but in examples like this, it does look super strange. So that is one thing to note when it comes to glues. Anyways, that's like really complicated and weird, and it gets changed sometimes, so I wouldn't be surprised if it gets changed later. And when it comes to heroes, literally anything, this is a support tower that's being used literally everywhere, so you'll see it all over the place. Anyways, let's get into some examples. I'll be using the super glue, but in this example, I'm gonna do something quite bizarre that isn't really seen a lot, but it is surprisingly effective in some situations. Definitely not every situation, but that's trying to use the Moab glue in the mid game and relentless glue in the mid game too. So it does still have a lot of slowing potential, but you typically see it in the late game the most because that's where you're really going to need it. That slowdown on those really big heavy ZOMG rushes are so crucial there, but it also can help a lot in the mid game. It doesn't have as much per cost impact because for using, let's say, like 10% of, well, I guess it would be more like 20% of the cost of your defense, you're slowing down the Bloons by 15%. I actually forget what stat it totally is, but compared to the late game, you'll be slowing down all the Bloons for maybe like 5% of the cost of your defense. So mathematically, it's like not as worth it, but it's still pretty strong, and it's an interesting approach that you can take, especially with the relentless that stuns it. So in this example, I'm going to be grabbing the glue early, using the glue to kind of slow down the Bloons in the early game for Churchill to be able to help deal with Churchill and that ninja. You aren't really going to want to get Moab glue for round 40 because that's a lot of money to take out the Moab. I'm going to do it in a different way. You're probably going to get this guy more in like the 50s. So I'm going to try to get up my Comanche defense up first before I upgrade that glue any further. Very smart play. And then we're going to get our village, and then we can get a relentless glue, and that's going to help me go straight into the Comanche commander with just the relentless glue, Comanche defense, Churchill, and I guess that ninja, sniper, and 2 dart monkeys helping out. They're there for like the moral support. Very cool. And as I mentioned, this really isn't like the most common thing. It is a very cool thing that you can do, but it's probably not really going to work too well on the harder maps. It would work just fine. Like it worked totally fine for me on this intermediate map, the water park, but you actually do oddly see like in more expert maps, maybe not like advanced gameplay, but like an expert gameplay, you'll see a lot of support towers being used in the mid game, particularly like snowstorms, stuff like that, even like a Sabo in the mid game, and then they'll be using those mid game support towers, well, I guess late game support towers to beat the mid game. So then when you go into the late game, then you can have those support towers plus all that money that you saved from not having to buy like mid-game solutions or a mid-game carry. And that's, I guess, the kind of same idea. Unfortunately, Moab glue doesn't really have like too much of an impact on a lot of expert maps when you just have like one of them, but when on these like single lane or single lanes that switch around where that one Moab glue really can do a lot, it can do quite a lot. So as you can see, the stun's awesome, the slow's awesome, these guys aren't going even anywhere, even if I'm not using my Churchill ability because I was watching YouTube videos while recording this. It still worked just fine, and I got my Comanche commander no problem. From here, we're going to be going from the showcase of the relentless in the mid game to then just looking at super glue. Super glue is a great tower too, so we're just going to get MIB so we can actually have our Comanche commander kill the Bloons, and then we'll grab super glue and we are off. Not really a whole lot. I decided just to round off the defense with something funky, something special, so we're going to be getting the final harmonic. No particular reason for that. Super glue is just going to do a lot of work. I already have a lot of damage and a lot of support. Last thing that I need, I guess, is some round 100 damage, so I believe I get a first strike to just round things off, but these rounds aren't really going anywhere. It's nice, it's easy, and it's chill. So yeah, that's pretty much really what it is for the super glue. I didn't get to alch buff it in here because I just didn't have space. That's totally fine. It's going to do very well without it. But anyways, As you probably know, the Moab glue and relentless glue gets used a lot, but I don't really see, for at least the power that I'm getting out of it, even on like harder maps too, the super glue being used a lot. It's like incredibly cheap, and the strength from it is actually like a lot, like a ridiculous amount. So maybe you should probably try it out. I definitely need to try it out some more. But anyways, first strike that thing open, we're good, and have a pretty simple strategy and super glue in there to really slow things down. Now let's take a look at the next example, and I'm going to be bringing this up to geared chimps. So as I said, this is like a tower that you'll see everywhere, so I might as well show it on a harder map. So we're just doing this on geared, and we're going to be using a pretty standard, like what you would typically see late game approach, just throwing in Moab glue or relentless glue into the late game, doing a lot of damage. So I'm just going to be doing a pretty simple geared strategy that's going to be Apache Prime, get Rosalie in there, and Apache Dart Chip for mid game, buffed by Rosalie's price discount. Pretty good price discount, it's 10% now as opposed to 5%, so you'll save actually a decent amount of money with it. Doing whatever I can for the early game, and then I'm going to be getting a Never Miss for the late game, not late game, mid game too, so we can go into the Apache Prime before round 80 very easily. Now I guess I'll mention a bit about Rosalia. Besides having the great help on round 40, like that round 40 Moab went nowhere, Rosalia does have a great use if you're using this strategy. I guess like when it comes to strategy, like all the other towers, that discount doesn't really warrant that much unless it's like big plane, but that really isn't something that you're going to be using for black borders typically. I guess you could do an easy big plane black border on like a beginner map, but besides that, not that much. Anyways, with the Apache Prime though, it's different because it makes it so much cheaper. Like I was able to very easily clear a pre-round 80 Apache Prime, which actually gives a lot of benefit, because if you're going to be able to get the Apache Prime before round 80, you don't have to deal with saving up for Apache Prime in the early 80s with super ceramics, which is a total pain. But at the same time, it's also a total pain to get the Apache Prime before round 80 on hard maps. However, with Rosalia, that's easy. Like, everything's easy. There's no issues with this at all. And even on geared chimps, no issues at all. Was able to get discounted Apache, discounted Never Miss 2, that also saved some money. I'll buff that, that's going to be doing a lot of damage. We can use our abilities on tough rounds. The only thing that I kind of did weird is that I kind of messed up, I guess, is that I could have gotten double discount and just gotten something to deal with round 42, like maybe that sniper up a little bit, and then I wouldn't have to micro the mortar on round 78. That was kind of annoying, but beyond that, it was all like really clean and really easy for my first, just like a first one go black border of geared chimps. Anyways, I'm yapping about this geared run a lot, and that's really because the Moab glue only appears in the late game, so we'll have to see that when it comes up. Anyways, that's really kind of like the only concrete Rosalia strategy that I have experimented, found after playing with Rosalia a lot. I guess you can also do some interesting things with like double Spectre Rosalia, like double Spectre Rosalia CTA could be quite useful. I guess I'd want to test a bit about that. Maybe that's something that we showcase when we look at Spectre. The military monkeys are coming up soon too, so that's pretty neat. Anyways, we're going into the 80s, literally no issues because we have Apache Prime, and now I'm going to grab MIB, all that stuff, and when the rotations come around, we'll be looking at the late game where we're going to be looking for places to put our Moab glue to slow down the Bloons and absolutely destroy. But anyways, for what we get with this Apache Prime strategy in the late game, it's just going to be like MIB, overclock. We'll get those Moab glues in there later too, using Rosalia's abilities. As you can see, DDTs in particular are quite tough with the strategy, like that, and fortifieds are also pretty nasty. ZMGs tend to be pretty easy, but the DDTs in particular are quite awful, so you're going to want to make sure we have a lot for that. As you can see, they do get a bit far. First thing I get is that the overclock there gives great help. and we're going to need that for like 98 too. But then I'm going to, on round 95 here, get my first relentless glue. So we're going to have that, and now that we have the DDTs going nowhere and they're stunned, as you can saw, super easy round 95. You saw before those DDTs on 93, they went far, like they were going out of this place. But once we get that relentless glue, they're not going anywhere, which is very useful. Unfortunately, the gear is rotating, so I just buy another one because I have the money. Why not? I also throw in those spike storms for round 99 and round 100, but that relentless glue also stunning down everything. 98's not going anywhere, 99's not going anywhere, and now I have all this power, so I can just beat up around 100 with the spike storms, overclocked Apache Prime, and it's all going down. Anyways, that is the mob glue and the end of primary. So really strong tower, and definitely a great way to end it off. You definitely have to be using this tower, and if you haven't, that's probably an issue. Anyways, goodbye. Thanks for watching. If you want to help out the channel, you can check out these new videos, like and subscribe for more content, support the channel by becoming a member, and joining the Discord to chat with the community. Bye!